everybody, this is Chaos with Chaos Esports Productions, bringing you another viewer cast. Today we're going to be looking at a PvZ submitted by Angelus. It's been about, I don't know, 3 to 4 months since I received a replay from him, so we're going to see how he's improved, and talk a little bit about his hotkey uses, as well as kind of some small tweaks that he can do to his PvZ build that might help him out in the long run. So we're going to go ahead and get right into this. Now, he is in Bronze League, so still trying to get himself out of the hole that is the Bronze League, and we'll do our best to do that. So he's going to open up with a Gateway in the main build, which is okay for Bronze League, but it's not necessarily a required build. A lot of players in the Bronze League, I'd say, tend to prefer going for the Forge Fast Expand, just because it's a little bit safer and it doesn't have a lot of the potential pitfalls that the Gateway in the main. Now, right off the bat, we do have one comment. If you're ever confused on whether or not you're gonna fully wall off, obviously you've got a pretty big gap here, and then we saw that drone go out the tiny back gap. The easiest way to mitigate dealing with this type of issue is always put your cybernetics core next to your gateway, such that this hex here and this hex here are up against each other, and that should leave you only one hex here for a zealot to go in. Just really easy way to ensure that you're going to fully wall off with that zealot. No random ling run bys coming in, things like that. So obviously one small little tweak we can make right off the bat. Second assimilator is going down, pretty normal timing. At this point, as far as scouting, you've only come in here and scouted his main. What happened to that probe is it kind of did the circle around, stopped here, started getting poked by a drone, and then kind of circled back, ended out right here, and then you didn't really know what to do with your probe, so you just tried to attack the drone and didn't work out. One thing that you can do is, if you're ever in a situation where you feel like you're not going to be able to get the drone out, or the probe out in time, is you can actually mineral click one of the mineral patches, and you'll pass through any units that are in your way. So that potentially could have minimized the amount of damage that the drone did to your probe, and also would have given you the ability to scout the hatchery here. So you're going to be getting up a handful of gateways, so you're looking to put on a little bit of pressure here early game, which is okay in the Bronze League. You know, depending on what your opponent's doing, this can be good or bad. Obviously, if your opponent's going for a really early rush, this might not work out as well. But you come in here, and this is a little bit sloppy. If we take a look at your camera, you're sitting back here paying attention to the stuff back here, which I would say is probably fairly reasonable. But in the case of you having only these units, you're not building any units back here, so if these units die, you're pretty much left with your mothership core, even if you do time or recall back. But basically, by losing these units up front, that puts you in a very, very scary situation for potential counterattacks and things like that. So this, you want to make sure that you're paying at least enough attention to this that if need be, you can pull back and then recall, because losing these units early game is going to be very, very scary. So you're going to go ahead and plant down your Nexus behind this, and then start getting your wall off up. I'd say it's halfway decent. The only thing that you need to be aware of is, once again, if he does go for that counterattack, since you recalled, your photon overcharge will just barely have enough energy to photon overcharge your natural once that's complete. So going to be getting up a fourth gateway. Now at this point, I would probably be focusing a little bit less on getting up my gateways and more focusing on chrono boosting your probes, because you know he's got his natural now that you've gone in and kind of seen it, so you know he's probably been on 2 bases for a lot longer than you have, and his probe count or his drone count is going to be significantly higher than yours. So you definitely want to continue on getting up your probes as much as possible, because that is what's going to keep you in the early game at an equal toe-to-toe economic race. So you're going to go ahead, finish up your Nexus, and then I believe that's when probe production starts back up again. So looking at your hotkeys, you've got both your Nexuses on 3 and 4. You probably need to make sure that you get that second Nexus on your hotkey, because obviously you want to be building probes out of both, not just one. Okay, there you go. So getting up some pylons. Honestly, I'd say these pylons, while they give you a nice vision of your base, they aren't necessarily needed right this second. You really want to be focusing on getting out your units and chrono boosting out them probes, because at this point you're kind of a little bit behind, and you want to make sure that you can get back into it as quickly as possible so you can get your unit production going ASAP. Now, one thing that I do want to note, you do a really good job of scouting this game. You come in here to check out the third base. You don't see anything, so you move up here to check and see if he's taken this third base. Definitely the right pattern, in my opinion. And then actually you follow up with the mothership core. I'm not sure if this was just, you know, Gandhi speaking to you or something. But yeah, you come in here and actually get the scout off on the third, which is quite nice. So yeah, so good game sense. I'm going to be getting up robotics bay and your Twilight Council, which is good. That means you can get your +2 going and your Colossus production going. I think that makes the most sense. Looks like you got to probe a little bit. So yeah, so you're going to get that scout off, and things are looking pretty good. I'd say at this point, the biggest problem that you have is, yeah, you've scouted the third, but you don't have any idea what kind of tech he's got. So throwing down a hallucinated Phoenix would be, in my opinion, probably your best option. You want to get that good scout off in their main, because you want to know if they're going up to hive, if they're getting down all their tech structures and things like that, and you really want to know what your opponent's doing, so that way you can counter it as best as possible. So, finally got your army onto one hotkey. Good. That probably should have been done. What I like to do is, as I'm building units, I just always throw it on one. Just throw it on one, and then whenever I use air units, I throw them on two, just for the sake of putting them on two. Gives you a little bit easier control between the two. You can A-move into something and then have the air units, you know, quickly switch over to the air units and do something. So yeah, so you're looking to push out here with a whole bunch of zealots and pause. A whole bunch of zealots and Colossus. This is an okay move out. The only thing that I caution you with is, like I said, you still really don't have any idea what your opponent's doing as far as tech, what type of unit composition that he's got. So this is a little bit scary. You can see by your bank that you're pretty gas heavy, and I would say that probably at around the 13-minute mark is when you should have thrown down your Templar Archives. I know you do plan it down eventually, but I think if you had planted it down a lot earlier, you would have had the flexibility of getting out the Archons a lot earlier, which would have made this composition so much stronger. So you're actually going to push in here and do a little bit of engagement, some pretty nice time warps. Now, I do want to make a quick comment. Those force fields... Yeah, let me back up just a little bit. The force fields actually hurt you in this instance. Since you're primarily zealot heavy, you don't want to force field in between your army and their army. You want to force field behind them. You want to make it so that they can't move, and if they try to move, they're basically just going to take damage and not do any damage. So let's slow it down. So you time warp. I'm waiting for... Okay, see, first force field is right between your armies. Second one goes down. So really, you only captured like 3 or 4 units actually in those force fields. So next time, try force fielding back here behind the army, so that way they are not readjusting. They're forced to go straight up against your zealots and take as much damage as possible. A little bit of moving micro. And then you end up cleaning this up because I believe your upgrades are like... actually, you're behind in upgrades just a little bit. So we'll go ahead and speed this up now. So you go ahead and go through there and you're like, okay, got to take out the third. Now, personally, focusing down the third is probably not your best option. While taking out the third is a good idea, as you can see, there's not really a whole lot of guys mining here, and you're spending a lot of money that is really not, you know, you're not getting a very good investment out of those zealots. You lose probably 800 minerals for it, and you know, all you got was that 300 mineral hatchery. So behind this, you're going to be getting out more Colossus. Your +3 is almost done. Templar Archives still not around. So we're getting a little closer. And this is kind of where things start to level out a little bit. Templar Archives is about halfway done. It's actually really, really quick building. That's why I like it so much. And then you're doing a pretty good job of keeping pylons around the map. You know, if you look at your vision, you've got pretty good idea of what's going on. Come in here for this engagement, and you actually do fairly well. Since he's been focusing on starting to get out air units, he has not really been paying that much attention to his ground army, and without any micro versus like straight up zealots, it's actually, zealots are really, really good against most ground armies. Obviously, if it's a super, super heavy Hydra composition, your zealots will melt very, very quickly, but in contrast, if there's no roaches to defend, you're pretty much going to be a-okay. So gonna go ahead and push out again. See, here's a good example of force fields. So you can see you put the force fields between behind his army so that they couldn't go anywhere. So you continue on doing here. Now, you did trap a couple, which is weird. I've never had that happen before. And then you let your Colossus get a little bit out of position by trying to focus down the ones that were here in the corner, which obviously your Colossus got taken down really, really quickly. But overall, you're in a pretty good position at this point. You're just going to back out because you're like, I don't know if I can push this. And your High Templar are finally out on the field while you take your third. Now, this third is taken a little bit late. I probably would have taken this around the 15-ish minute mark, because that's kind of when you want to force the Zerg player's hand. You want to make it so that if he doesn't contest this, then he's gonna lose. I mean, 3 base Protoss is super, super strong, and as long as you can keep that edge over your opponent, you're pretty much gonna be golden. So, gonna warp in some High Templars and get up your money composition. And yeah, I'd say overall, while the execution wasn't 100%, you know, I would say that you're probably playing at around a silver or gold level. Probably not bronze, just because you do have some sense of understanding of game timings and things like that. As you can see, Archons melt through everything because they do extra damage to biological units, and all of Zerg units are biological. So yeah, so overall, I'd say you're doing pretty good. I believe this is kind of where you queue up. Go ahead and take your fourth. Queue up, getting some more Archons. Feeling pretty good about yourself. He's going to try and take a fourth, and that's going to get denied. And then, yeah, your Archons are just going to melt through this Roach army, and that's more or less the end of it, because you're going to walk right up in here, and things are going to be good. So, yeah, feel free to go ahead and leave any comments down in the comment section below. I'd be more than happy to respond to those. If you have any other questions, things that you might have wanted me to touch on overall. I think the big thing that you wanted me to touch on was hotkeys, and, you know, quite honestly, as a Protoss player, I'd say that, you know, this type of hotkey arrangement's okay. One thing I do recommend is putting your robotics facility on 5. That way you always have an easy, you know, tap that, make a Colossus kind of deal. But other than that, I'd say, you know, I'd say your game sense has gotten a lot better than what it was, and you've done, you know, you're doing a pretty good job. So yeah, so I hope you enjoyed. Feel free to, like I said, go ahead. If you got any questions, feel free to leave those in the comments section below. And that's it. So if you're a new person checking out my videos, feel free to go ahead and hit that subscribe button down the lower left hand side. It'd be greatly appreciated. Also, feel free to go ahead and hit that like button and share with your friends on Facebook and Twitter who are trying to learn some more StarCraft 2 action. Hopefully this helped some people out. I know it'll help Angelus out, but I hope it'll help you out. And yeah, if you would like me to take a look at one of your replays, there is a email address in the description. Feel free to send your replays to that, and I would be more than happy to do a quick rundown of your game and let you know how you're doing. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next game.